You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hi, everybody, and stick around. We've got a really fun lineup today for you on Talkin' Shop. Hi, everybody. It's a really short and sweet intro, so you guys don't have to wait around to get to the good stuff. I'm Jen King, and we're here on The Experience on the show Talking Shop, which is meant to be super helpful and informative for you guys so that you can figure out what to tell your local comic shop about putting aside for you, either as just a hold, or if you have poll service, you can tell them about the polls. We, as always, have our first interview of the hour, very scouty. Please welcome Karl and Jenna.
Yay! Hey.
I love this so much. Same room.
That's right.
Always.
Sometimes you don't know. You want to assume.
We're like nothing if not efficient over here.
Yeah. So, all right. First of all, Jenna, I really got excited about the Heroes and Villains Entertainment site, but then ran out of time to really fully dig through it. So tell me what all that part of the business does.
Sure. I started out in screenwriting, and to get really anything done in film, you need representation. So definitely a manager, sometimes an agent. And Heroes and Villains is a management company, and they manage comic book creators, filmmakers, podcasters. I mean, they run the gamut. And I have a screenwriting partner named John, and we signed with them back in November. And they've been wonderful. Our manager, Marcus, is just the best. So he would be the one that I'd send a script to, and he'd try to send it to production companies or directors or actors and try to get the ball rolling on getting something made.
Okay, so that is an eye-opening thing, because I don't really know how I thought the magic happened when scripts were kind of passed around Hollywood. I always thought it was just people just showed up with the ivy and dropped papers off on people's tables.
If that ever did work, it only worked once, and then that was it. The door closes behind them.
Maybe so. So, is this very common to have someone like a company like this that takes care of all of the putting it in front of people that makes sense?
Yeah, a lot of times companies will not read submissions unless they are sent by a manager or an agent. Like if you wrote a script and just wanted to get it in front of really anyone's eyes, there will be disclaimers on every website, and they will just say, do not send us unsolicited submissions. They will be deleted unread, because it puts them in a situation of liability where if they make something similar, which similar development happens all the time, they could get in trouble if you said, well, I thought of that first, and it's way too dicey. Plus a lot of stuff it's not that good, and they don't have a lot of time to devote to going through the thousands and thousands of submissions they would get. They need a filter, essentially, and that's what a management company or an agency does. They say, we're vouching for this, it's vetted by us, and it's quality you can trust. So
are they also going through it ahead of time and seeing is it high enough quality? Does it match anything out there that people are hunting?
Yeah, we had to query a bunch of companies, John and I, and the ones who did respond, a lot of times people don't. You have to send them a sample of your writing and say, this is the thing I'm most proud of. This is my newest thing. And they have to respond to that material to even say, okay, let's have a conversation. And then you have a conversation and you figure out whether or not you're actually compatible as people. And then they say, cool, now I want to read another submission just to make sure you're not a one-hit wonder. So then you send them something else, and it's a whole process. But yeah, when you find someone that you work well with and they respond to your material and you like their vibe, it is it's a process for sure.
So did you start out in script writing and then kind of tiptoe into comic books, or has it always been kind of even keel?
Yeah, I have been screenwriting now for, 12 or 13 years. And I didn't really get into writing comic books until the last couple, right? Last 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
because of this guy.
Because I'm a pusher.
He was like, listen, comics are where it's at. You have no budget in comics. You don't have to worry about that. You want to read some stuff where you can just blow everything up and go to space? And I was like, yes. Yes, please.
I'm a positive influence.
There is something to, I mean, there is kind of a budget because your artist has to
just like what you put on the
whatever
page.
they have to be able to pull off whatever you're
yeah, budget definitely for the art, like definitely pay your artist, pay your lad, get everybody paid, but like in terms of the story, you can tell the sky's kind of the limit.
Mm-hmm. It's really true. Karl, how long have you been in the comics game?
Running on probably a little over 15 years. I'm a Kubert School graduate. Done a bunch of stuff for pretty much every company that's around that's now defunct and now Scout, self-published. I've done most of it. I've enjoyed all of it.
Joey's so funny.
Joey, me too.
Business drug.
Joey Galvez is my drug.
Joey is amazing. He and Rose are just a really awesome team, I'm saying. And I adore his family. They're so much fun. He's always apologizing. Sorry, my children are around. I think that's the best. Karl, so, okay, you've done work with just about everybody. You say like currently and defunct. So what is your advice for people that are like now trying to get into comic book creating?
Self-publish immediately. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Don't wait until you think you have whatever boxes you need to check. I always recommend schooling of some sort just to get fundamentals, but a lot of it comes from just drawing at least every day. On average, I do 2 to 3 pages a day professionally so I can get it ready for print. And half the time it doesn't even have a publisher ready lined up. I'll just draw comics because I've got things I need to do. Life is short. Got to get everything out while you still can.
And then with the people who you say are now defunct, it was how many years of thinking like, oh, I'm going to get something on shelves and that'll be the ticket in. And then they go kablooey and you've now wasted 2 years of your life on a project that's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. The majority of this is my big breaks that you'll have throughout your career, and they'll never be your big breaks because you're relying on someone else. I mean, if you want a book from Devil's Due or from Black Bull, any of those old companies, chances are I've got something in one of them. But I mean, the comics industry is so volatile, especially from the publishing aspect of things. You basically have to strike while the iron's hot, and the only person who's going to be your biggest cheerleader is you. If there are companies that are on the same page as you, work with them if they want you. If not, don't wait for them to come to you. Put out your own stuff, build your own audience. We live in a golden age of multimedia, multi-platform art support. You can get your stuff out there by hook or by crook and make a way bigger name for yourself without relying on anybody that's pushing you.
I've kind of seen over the years that even if you are going to be with a publisher, that they really do like to see completely finished work of your own.
Yep.
So your idea of like you don't really have a home for it yet doesn't mean it won't have a home. It just means it hasn't found its perfect place yet. Have you done a lot of like shopping finished projects to publishers before?
A handful for sure. Right now I'm just kind of enjoying having a book at Scout and crowdfunding, and I've got a couple other things in the works right now with actual publishers for a change in the coming months next year, which is going to be weird for me because I will devote a good 2 to 3 chunks of years just on single projects before anyone actually sees anything from it. So it's funny to go kind of into hermit mode for a long time and like literally finish a book from front to back and then be like, okay, who wants it? Someone. But yeah, and if they don't, who cares? Put it out yourself. Get crowdfunded.
You probably make a lot more money.
You'll make a lot more money because you don't have to share it with anyone.
Yeah, it's true.
It's absolutely true. So, Karl, are you a practical artist, like pen and ink to paper? Or
oh yeah,
artist.
Ink spattered hands as proof.
Love it. Are you okay? So I do a little bit of inking, but I'm horrible at it. But I'm always like looking for the details as a person that just likes to try. Are you a brush person? Are you the
Yep.
ones like the pens that have like the brush tips? Are you a Sharpie person?
I'm all brush and quill, sometimes rapidograph, but usually just anything that's a dippable medium with Speedball Super Black Magic ink.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
The Super Black.
Higgins Super Black.
There are just stacks of original pages in his office, and I look at them and I think like so much art these days is done digitally, and these poor artists are cutting themselves off from another revenue stream, which is selling original pages. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Not that I don't think digital art is bad. I want artists to be able to get paid.
Yeah.
I do too.
For me as a collector, even, it's kind of like a disheartening thing to think that there is no way to physically own, other than a printed comic book. There's no physical way to own the original art from something. There's been so many times when I've had money saved up and, connected with an artist and said, how much would you like to have for, page something? They're like, oh, well, it's just digital art.
Yeah.
My whole heart just breaks.
Yeah.
I've actually seen, I know that Scouts has just recently started doing this, that they have started to sell the print plates.
Yeah.
Yes, we did see that.
I think it's such a creative thing. Like I had no idea that you could acquire the print plate for something. I just figured that it was a one-use thing only. Brilliant. Matt thinks that NFTs are where it's going. I don't know. So there's the hard thing, is like, that is even more of something I can't hold in my hand. So
yeah,
I think there'll be
true.
NFT people, but I think that probably the people that are not digital but physical copy people might also not be NFT people.
I found there's an odd disconnect between digital and organic readers, which is so uniquely comic book related that the Wednesday Warriors are never going to go away. They're always going to want that physical, tangible thing. And I think there's a bit of reticence among the community to really, really take hold of anything outside of like maybe digital, because like there's all the downloadable apps and whatnot that you can get. But like the NFT thing is such a saturated conversation right now with a lot of people that don't exactly understand the landscape yet. I think it'll be a long time before that's even considered a possibility as an output medium, especially one that can be mass consumed.
Seeing as how it's meant to be just one only, right? So
yeah. But yeah, definitely coming in hot.
Definitely coming in hot, yeah.
All right, so Jenna, when you're talking about the Heroes and Villains entertainment that's helping with like push your finished scripts out there, I wasn't even thinking about scripts as NFTs. Do you guys have to really like worry a lot about making sure that all your contracts address those kinds of forms of your intellectual properties, like as art and script writing? Is that now having to be added to everything?
I actually think that it is. I haven't had any experience with it yet, but I do think that the kind of expanding Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, NFT of it all is something that will have to be addressed in terms of creator rights and who owns what and what goes into the contracts. Because a lot of times contracts, there are so many different kinds. There could be an option, which is just for a certain period of time. There could be a sale, which is they own it forever. Like, it's super nuanced, and that's why always get a lawyer. Always have a lawyer.
Always have a lawyer.
Great advice. It's for everyone's protection. It's like I always say, it's like a good lawyer is like a good fence. It makes good neighbors.
That's right.
Okay, so Karl, let's start with you. Do you want to give everybody kind of a little bit of like a touchstone for other work that you've done that they might recognize, so they can go backwards from Cult of Icarus if they read it and are like, I love this art stuff. Where do I find the rest of this art style?
The anthropological dig into the Karl Slominski bibliography. Yeah. I was doing a lot of work for hire stuff for roughly 10 years after I graduated, and it was kind of leaving me unfulfilled. Not that they were bad projects, they were just not the things that I really wanted to do, and I was chasing a paycheck, which anyone who works in comics knows is kind of non-existent unless you're holding the reins. So I took a chance with myself, and instead of putting off another decade's worth of my own stuff, I dove in head first with the first thing that I ever did was Teeter Topple, which is a painted graphic novel dealing with PTSD and kind of dealing with psychosomatic trauma.
But it's a lot funnier than it sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of a black comedy in a way that like an A24 movie would be. And it kind of put me on the map as a solo creator for a hot minute. And I jumped right off of that into doing a 250-page all-ages monster kid graphic novel called Evermore Falls, which I kickstarted. And it's getting a wider release later next year, but I can't say much about that yet. And Cult of Icarus right now, and 2 or 3 other projects that I can't actually talk about yet, which I hate when people say that because that's annoying and it sounds like a tease, but contracts being what they are, you haven't seen the last of me yet, you suckers.
I always tell people it's okay to lock that up and tease it. That's always good. All right, so what you can tell me about Evermore Falls? What is the pitch for it, and where, if someone really didn't want to wait for the new print, where could they get it?
They can hit me up at slowmotionart.com.
Slow as in SLO.
But it's about these kids in a small town in true Amblin form that find a magic book that reveals a place parallel to our own where monsters are real and chaos ensues.
They take a little adventure.
And it's a blast. And it's perfect for everyone of all ages, young and old, short and tall.
How many pages are we talking about for this?
About 250. It's the manga size.
It's solid.
So yeah, it's a tome. You can really throw it at someone.
I mean, it's good that it's long because from what I can tell we have like a really big kids section, is that kids plow through books really quickly.
Yes, they do.
But the cool thing that until I opened this store, I didn't really remember about myself as a kid, is that we didn't ever read anything once. We read it like a million billion times, because kids will be like, they'll sit here and read the entire book and then bring it to their mom and say, I must buy this book, which is different than an adult, right? If you let an adult read an entire book in a store, they'll be like, haha, put it back on the shelf.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of my goal for that, was to make some kids' first favorite comic book.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Is that your first like kind of all ages project?
First and probably only at this point, because it's really, really challenging to attract a younger audience like that.
It is an interesting section of comic bookdom because it is the fastest growing. That's what Bookscan showed us this year at Comics Pro. It is a huge growth market, and so is manga for some crazy reason.
Oh yeah.
And, it's kind of like if you just ask like 10 people on the street what they think the biggest book selling market is, they're going to be wrong.
Yep.
Because they're going to say something else.
Totally.
And Jenna, for you, what else have you worked on? If people wanted to go backwards from Cult of Icarus and find other work of yours, even as script writing.
Sure. Prior to Cult of Icarus, I have done, and I'm continuing to do, a bunch of work for Zenescope. So I wrote the Jack and Jill one shot that just came out last Wednesday. And then right before that was a story called Black Knight. And then prior to that was a story called Bachelorette Party. I did an Oz book. Gosh, that's been a ton of fun. So all of my stuff has been from Zenescope. And then if people wanted to see a film, I had a film called Ambition made that came out in theaters in 2019. And it was directed by Bob Shea, who founded New Line Studios. So all those classic horror movies you love from the 80s, he was responsible for those, and he directed my movie, which was pretty cool. It's called Ambition. It's a psychological thriller. And hopefully more soon on the film front.
All right, so I got to talk to you about Ambition.
Sure.
And script writing. Yeah. So I know when you turn in a script, there's a lot of fingers that get into that pie afterward. Mm-hmm. Do when people are making film from your script, do they come back and consult with you about it, or do they just hand it off to new writers and it gets rewrites for the people that are doing dialogue, and you don't have any more touch?
It can be any number of things. So with Ambition, it was optioned. A lot of times options run for 12 to 18 months. And so a company will say, here's a fairly small amount of money. Let us pay this to you for a year. You give us exclusive right to kind of develop this or try to sell it for that year. And if we don't, it either comes back to you or we pay you again to keep trying. And so during that time period, I have a folder of drafts of Ambition under different titles it's probably 100 revisions deep. Like we wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And then eventually when someone decides to make the movie, that is when they have to come to you and say, okay, we've negotiated your contract. Now we have to pay you the larger purchase price. But then once they do, they own it outright. They can do whatever they want with it, change it however they want, and they don't have to tell you word one about it. It just may or may not have your name on it, depending on whether or not you're in the WGA and whether or not someone's rewritten you 50% of the way. But honestly, the biggest currency I feel like you can have is credits. And there are lots and lots of writers out there who have done lots and lots of writing on things, and you will never see their name because their stuff has been rewritten or they just didn't get credit for whatever reason. And so, yeah, there's a lot of variables at play.
And being rewritten doesn't mean that your script was poor. It just means that there was things about it that they needed to change for the final product.
Sure. For example, one of the first drafts of Ambition took place in a blizzard, and eventually the final film took place in like a large rainstorm because snow is expensive. You know what I mean? It's stuff. So it doesn't mean it's bad or good. It maybe an actor wants their lines rewritten and they have a specific person they like to do that. They will hire that person to just rewrite that person's lines. Like a lot of money changes hands, and a lot of work gets done on these things. It truly takes hundreds and hundreds of people to make a movie.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right. So where did the idea for Cult of Icarus come from? Was it just brainstorming? Were you inspired by something?
Carl had the title.
Yeah, I had the title first.
Yeah.
I always have titles first. Never a story, just titles. I'm just like, that's a cool title.
And then we thought Icarus, flying close to the sun. Maybe it has something to do with the sun. I always say, let's throw some supernatural creatures in there. And we thought, well, sun, let's do vampires because that's the opposite. And so we were going to try to like create a new...
Oh, we did so much beforehand research on like deities
monsters
and like lost gods. And we were coming home from C2E2 and we drove, so it's a long drive for us. We were talking about it, and I was like, do you just want to make them vampires?
Make it just easy on our lives.
Just super easy.
So you don't have to explain a lot to your readers either.
Yeah, vampires is shorthand for badass, so...
Yeah, you know the basics there. You don't need to be walked through a new mythology or anything like that. So...
So how did you guys have the project completely done and pitch it to Scout and they picked it up? Is that how it was?
We had originally put together a pitch deck with some sample pages, and once they gave us the go-ahead, we had the first issue in the can, and then a global pandemic happened, which nobody saw coming.
No.
It wasn't in the cards for us because we definitely thought it was going to be done and out sometime in that 2-year span, but we lucked out and it actually bought us a little bit more time. So definitely got it done just in time for everyone to get back to stores and whatnot and see it in the wild.
With the pitch, I think we had like the log line, which is the one-line description of the entire series. We had like a short synopsis. We had some comps in there of what it could be compared to. And I think we had the 4 or 5 issue breakdown, which then became 4 issues.
Yeah.
And then the sample art. So it was pretty straightforward.
It was a beautiful deck too.
He's a good graphic designer. I am not.
I go above and beyond when I pitch something, and I'll just give you like the most luscious PDF of goodies.
If it had been me, it would have been scanned images of like stick figures with side ponies. So it would not have looked good at all.
Credit where credit's due. She draws a dang fine side pony.
Side pony.
That's so funny. All right. So I find that people that are in the industry are multi-talented.
It's true.
And so for you guys, do you guys cross over into each other's skill set at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I dragged him into screenwriting.
Yeah. We've got a script that's in development right now that we both wrote.
Yep. It's a fun little slasher movie because I always skew horror. And he was like, "You don't have a slasher movie, do you? I'm going to write a slasher movie and then we can collaborate on it." And he did. Like, I mean, he knocked it out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've been developing it. And,
I work fast when I got an idea in my head.
And then he brought me into comics. It's been really nice, actually.
And next we're going to start a cover band.
That's it.
So wait, can either of you sing or play an instrument? So that's the best question.
Well,
He can sing.
yeah, I used to be in a band, so.
He used to be in a band. He can play piano.
Yep, drums.
I used to be able to play piano. I used to play guitar. I played clarinet in high school because I was very cool.
I played trombone in high school, but I did not start a ska band. I had restraint.
All right, so if we got a clarinet, a possibility, piano, and guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If you had banjo, you could go and just go straight up bluegrass.
Any excuse to wear overalls.
That's right. Comfy
Heavy
clothes.
metal bluegrass is what I want to see someone do, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I always joke that I like when bands take a genre and add like core to it, like it's a hardcore version of something something. I always wanted to see like a jug band, so someone could just start jug core finally. It's yet to happen.
We need horror polka.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a thing. I'm Polish. Trust me, I can vouch for this. It's a thing.
Sure
There's like a whole like death polka subgenre. They wear like Norwegian black metal makeup and they oompa 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 while they it's awesome.
That's the best. Now I'm gonna go look at that up whenever we're done.
You congratulations! I just completely took away your evening. You're just gonna go right down that rabbit hole.
I'm gonna follow it to its end. I am certain.
I love it.
Cult of Icarus #1 completely sold out as far as I'm aware, at least at the distribution level.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so Scout has been doing the release schedule, so they have #1 come out, and then they give it a little room to breathe. They give it a couple months. That's going to start changing a little bit as they've expanded their distribution model. But so people have had 2 months to try to hunt down a #1. So #2 is out this week. So to refresh everyone's memory, what happened in issue #1, so that they can be all like, gotta have #2 if they can't find that #1.
Sure.
Well, the good news is Scout went back with a reprint, which is also coming out this week. So if you missed it,
Yes,
y'all get it again.
That's right. With a very cool painted cover by this one. Very creepy. Very cool. In the first one, our main protagonist is a teenager named Hunter, and she has left her foster care home, which she was very unsatisfied with her only possession that links her to who her parents might be, which is a book, which leads her to a bookstore and the bookstore owner is more than meets the eye, and he kind of starts her on her journey to find her parents, which includes a bloodthirsty vampiric cult who would like nothing more than to get their hands on Hunter. So
That was really good. That was super, super tight.
I'm a writer.
Succinct. Whew, got goosebumps.
that's perfect. Was there a cliffhanger? I read it 2 months ago and I can't remember. Was there a cliffhanger at the end of issue 1?
There is a cliffhanger in the form of a vampire motorcycle riding punk rock singer.
Oh,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's some boss art.
Thank you. I do what I can.
Well, it looks like our half an hour is done. This is like the fastest half an hour I think ever.
Wow.
We have that effect on podcasts.
You guys have got all too much cool talent in your lives to talk about and squeeze down amount of time that is a half an hour. So this is a total reminder to make sure that Cult of Icarus is on your polls. Even if you thought you told your LCS that you really dug the #1, you might not have told them you dug it enough to get it on the list. So make sure that you go and take care of that after the show so that you don't miss out on Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with
Thanks
me.
for having us.
I hope to get to the bottom of your 2 top secret projects that are coming out soon, and we'll have you guys back.
That's right. We'd love
Definitely.
to come back.
Love it. Okay, we'll do the bridge here. Speaking of Zenoscope, the connection to Jenna, I have Pat Shand coming up next.
Nice.
Right after
That's
the
great.
break.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there, hi there, hello there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Compa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in a minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadets.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody! Welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. This is Talkin' Shop, and we're talking to creators that have work that's coming out this week. And to that end, let's hang out with Pat Shand.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on, man? I haven't got to talk to you in a hot minute.
Yes. I'm very happy to be here. I am. I got some comics out this week. I am grateful for you having me on. Thank you very much.
I'm super excited to be able to talk to you because I feel like we chat back and forth via DM and over Facebook and those kinds of things. But I don't know if we've ever really gotten to have like a serious long talk about all the cool stuff you've had your fingers in recently for creation, which is like a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a pretty good past few years. Got some work, freelance work, some creator-owned work, and just doing my thing.
Okay, so here's one of my big questions. Is like when I look at the Zenescope wall, it's like all Pat Shand, or I can't remember. It was a person that has a B first name that does all the regular just main GFT, and then it looks like Gregory. Like
yeah. There's a lot of Raven Gregory. Yeah.
So it's just like you three people. Like, how did you get this sweet deal?
Well, back in the day, around I think 2012 to 2015, I was a staff writer for Zenescope. My first gig with them were just, some annuals here and there, and 1,000 Ways to Die graphic novel, the Spike TV show, And they would just do these one shots, Grim Fairy Tales annual, holiday issue, that kind of stuff. And they tested me on those. And the idea was to do those shorter stories and then bring me on for a bigger gig. And my first main gig was Robin Hood. That was back then it was a 5-issue miniseries in 2012. And I wrote Robin Hood, and I was doing it so fast because, back then I was new. I wanted to prove myself, show that I could just power through these gigs. They had a second series, Godstorm, launching at the same time. And when I heard about it, Raven was editor back then, and he made a comment about looking for a writer. And when I said that I could do both, they considered it, and based on my speed and how they were enjoying Robin Hood, brought me on there. And then within a week of doing that, they offered me a staff writer position. So I was exclusive there for I think 4 years or so, 2012 to 2016. I took a break because back then I was doing like 8 issues a month, and that was kind of crazy. And when you're doing 8 issues a month with a publisher, and I mean, that was just writing, I was editing too. So I had my hands in so many titles that, within 4 years, I felt kind of that I did all that I could. I touched all the titles, and there were different voices that I was hiring as editor. That I just wanted to hear more different vibes than just me, you know. And I wanted to do my own stuff too. So around 2016, I broke off and began doing more of my own indie work. And you know, it was just about last year that I began to collaborate with Zenescope again. I started doing some Van Helsing stuff. I have a Van Helsing ongoing run right now. Some one shots here and there. But yeah, it's almost like I did so much that when I took my break, they changed so many things and really refreshed the universe that now there's so much more to explore now, and they do things very differently. You know, they do these one shots now that you know of, you know, the annuals, the quarterlies. It's just a very different vibe. You know, I mean, when I was writing, I was on Grim Fairy Tales and Robin Hood and Charmed at the same time. And those were like ongoing series, you know, like 20 issues at minimum. So it's a very different level of commitment to be running 3 ongoings than just coming on and doing one shots here and there, which is a different and cool vibe. And yeah, that's where I am now, where I'm back and I'm doing stories here and there. But I'm kind of happy to like pop in. You know, I'm on Van Helsing steady, and I'm picking up different things here and there. But I'm not like, you know, the voice of Zenescope. I'm very happy to be a voice right now. You know.
So the thing that I've always appreciated about Zenescope, it's one of those things that I always have to get people kind of like over this hump of. I think people look at the covers and kind of think a certain thing about the line, which is completely untrue. Like it looks like it's just written to like have a bunch of like sexual situations, but that is not what's inside those books. Those books are strong female protagonists kicking butt.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And yeah, it's this weird dichotomy too, where I have had that conversation many times where you know, even fellow pros will go on, you know, Twitter or Facebook and write something like, I don't know who would read Zenescope, because they assume that it's just, you know, these sexy fairy tale stories when that's not. I mean, that hasn't been the truth for a long time. It was never really the truth. But you know, back in the day when they were doing Grim Fairy Tales, the ongoing in the first phase before I came on, before Raven came on, they were doing horror versions of fairy tales, but even that is the distant past. They have this, you know, really functioning, interconnected universe that's very, you know, once you dive in and see what it is, most people stay. You know, it's one of those things where they have options where if you like Van Helsing, you can really stick with that title and enjoy it, or you can see it pop up in Robin Hood and Grim Fairy Tales. And it's this kind of fun, sprawling universe that you don't really need a lot to understand, and that's very appealing. And two, what you noted about the female characters, what I would always find funny when I would see these articles critiquing the company about the covers is that, you know, a lot of the audience who loves those covers, they're not who the internet pits them out to be. They're not these like creepy dudes. If you go to a convention, and I've done many with Zenescope, the audience for those is largely female, and people don't really believe that, but it's true. It's true.
I will tell you that it's true in my store specifically. That is like the fans of that line don't just usually collect one title from Zenescope. They almost all of them have on their pull list all Zenescope. They just want all of it. And then they kind of know which cover is their kind of cover. Like there are people that are A cover people, and there are people that I call C cover, because the C tends to be the most really like art. Like you could frame a piece of art for a cover.
Yes, that's 100% the vibe. And I think that the old idea of Zenescope is that, you know, is just a sexy cover company. But what you said is 100% what it is. They even in the covers, they have this variety where I think it's this. Cover A is the iconic kind of superhero pose cover. Cover B is an action shot, and cover C is an art print, pretty much. It can be a cheesecake. It can be done in that kind of style, or it can just be a piece of interesting art done in a dynamic style. And that's been how they've been for years. So there is that old idea of them out there, but thankfully I do see it less and less. And I'm also less immersed because when I was exclusive, all the creative work that I could do was for Zenescope, but now I'm working with different publishers and running my own stuff that I do see it and look for it less. But yeah, I can't say that it didn't really kind of bother me when I would see fellow pros, especially ones that I liked, sort of have just this not nuanced take on the company that I was putting so much work into, that I was really enjoying writing for it and writing stories that, I think that they would love it if they gave it a chance. But yeah.
Do you have like a favorite single issue that you have written or someone else has written for Zenescope that would be the right place to be like, okay, if you think Zenescope is A, read this book and it will tell you what Zenescope is?
Yeah. In general, if I were to pick from my stuff, the Robin Hood one-shots, there was the Robin Hood Age of Darkness. That one is for a superhero fan. You read it and it has this, it's very accessible, even though it's part of this event. It is designed to be a funny, action-packed story. And then I would always point people, back then Zenescope was doing this thing called Launch, where every issue where you could see it as a jumping on point, even if it was just an issue number 7, if it had fresh elements of a new arc starting, they would put a little Launch logo. And I would always push those extra hard because on Robin Hood, my mode was this, on the ongoing, that is. We did 20 issues of the ongoing, and I would do a 2 or 3 issue arc and then 2 one-shots. 2 or 3 issues, then 2 one-shots. And I designed that for what you're saying, for people who, see this Robin Hood number 7 with a cover that they might be surprised that we're using because it's not cheesecake, and they'll see it and give it a try because it says jumping on point. And those were specifically designed for what you're saying, and that was good times though. Robin Hood one shots, I would say, the Age of Darkness, and then I think 6, 11, and 12 maybe were the big ones that I would push that way. But yeah.
Okay. That's perfect. So is there a Zenescope title of yours that's dropping real soon?
Yeah, we got Van Helsing Hour of the Witch coming out this week. That is a 64 pager, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this again, where it's just such a different mode than the miniseries. A 64 pager is like a graphic novel, and that it felt like I was getting a chance to do a miniseries in one shot, and you just go with it. And this is Hour of the Witch is the start of, it stands alone as a Van Helsing and Gretel story, but it also kind of starts off our mode for Van Helsing for this year. I was talking to Dave Franchini and Dave Wall, who run the stories right now, and the idea with Van Helsing right now is to do these sort of year-long arcs where some of what I'm doing pays off the issues that I was writing last year, but really, if you want to start with Van Helsing, any one shot is good, but Hour of the Witch is a great place to start and invest in her ongoing storyline.
So when you write, do you write so that if someone were to jump in, that's their very first connection with Van Helsing characters, that they're fine, you've given them enough to be like, you totally understand this person's personality and where they're coming from?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. Especially because so many elements of the universe have changed since my last run as staff writer that many of it is new to me as well. There's Gretel in this, and when I got the assignment for this issue, I read Gretel for the first time. So we're meeting her, people know her if they've read her book, but Van Helsing readers don't. So I introduce her and sort of reintroduce Liesel Van Helsing to people for the first time every issue. It's I don't do it where I don't like when issues take so long to explain what things are, but I like to design the story and lean into new readers in a way that doesn't talk down to people, but really just explains it in a way that is quick, fun, and easy to grasp, and then you dive in.
Yeah, I think that's like one of those true talents that writers have. If you read a book from them, you're like, okay, I just jumped in here, and it wasn't even a number one. If you read a book from them and you're like, you get to the end of it and you realize you didn't have that page, was like, this is Bill. Bill can do that. Here's his best friend, Smitty or whatever. If you could have read the whole thing and still been able to tell all of those things about it, you're like, what's their power? Where are they from? What's their touchstone to humanity? Those kinds of things. If you can figure all those things out and have them not ever said out loud to you like that, then that's a writer's like true talent.
Yeah, that's thank you. First of all, that's something that I do. I think about how I can do it in a way that facilitates that specific story too. Like for Hour of the Witch, right? There are things about Van Helsing that you could learn, but they aren't relevant to this story, so they aren't in there. So I do pick what's important to understand this story, with the idea that if people want to, keep going to invest in her arc, they'll find out more about her later. I want to get readers up to date on what's important in the now, and if something comes up later on, I can add information about what's important then too. That's a big part of writing these things, figuring out how to sometimes it's as simple as this. Like for example, I wrote this one shot coming up later down the line. It's this Dracula's Daughter 72 pager, and that is under the umbrella of my Van Helsing run. That one specifically picks up from what she was doing in a previous arc. So I detail all of that, and we have an editor caption saying you can see this play out in the pages here, and you can refer back to that issue. But if I've done my job right, you should be able to read the story fluidly and grasp everything that you need from the narration.
Oh, perfect. All right. We got another whole book to talk about that I'm super excited about doing. We're going to take a quick break though and come right back and get after it. Welcome back. We're here talking to Pat Shand, who has got 2 things releasing in short order this week. Yes, both of them.
For sure. Yeah.
Look, this is crazy cool when this happens. Does this happen a lot to you, where you have multiple things drop at the same week?
Sometimes, but just because Destiny is ongoing, so that one will come out. The goal is every month. Paper shortages have been, problematic for us. But yeah, because we're out every month, it'll happen here and there. but it's always, you know, a bit extra nice.
So, okay, so this is like a book that's very cool in its like idea. You've got somebody who has like a whole prophecy that's been spoken about them. And then what do you do with that as a character in a world that, you know, magic's real? That's fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like, you know, all these fantasy stories, they end after the prophecy is fulfilled. They end when the protagonist does this big heroic thing. The story is over. My idea is picking up with that character years later to see how the weight of being told that the greatest thing that you'll ever do has already been done when you were a kid. How does that feel as an adult? How can you, you know, move on with life? How does that impact your view of life and death and aging? And yeah.
Okay, so this is that we're going to get all real now. So was this a little bit driven by the fact that you've had a lot of success early in your career? Did you ever think about that as it applies to you? That like, okay, well, I've hit kind of this like super high plateau. How do I stay on the plateau? What do I do?
It's funny that you say that. First of all, thank you for saying that, because that's very nice. The truth is that no, but just because, you know, I don't think negatively about my success, but I can't lie. I do, you know, it's hard to look at the big picture, right? It's hard to see what you've done. And I always think that I haven't done enough, you know. I always look back and I'm like, I could have done so much more. So no, but just because I'm hard on myself.
It is one of the cool careers in that you don't really have like in sports or maybe even as like acting where people say you kind of have a shelf life. Like writing is one of those things that's amazing that you really can do it, you know, as long as you really want and have like ideas and drive to do it. Do you have that kind of feeling for yourself that you're gonna keep on going as long as you have stories to tell?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it'll always, you know, be 100% comics focused, because I mean, my goal was always to just write everything. I've had success in comics and I love comics, but I would love to, at the same time as I do comics, to do prose and theater. I mean, there was a time when, before comics popped off for me, what I was mostly doing was theater. You know, I was doing off Broadway stuff. And yeah, it's I see myself always writing. I just don't know what form it'll be, really. Just always storytelling, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is there something that you're really thinking about now that you really wanted to try out as a form that you're dabbling in?
Is there something? Yes. I would love to have a nice group of writers and to showrun a TV series. I think that, you know, a lot of what I do in Destiny New York is building character over a long period of time. Like, I mean, as the single issues come out, I'm still working on the ongoing graphic novels. It's two separate things where Black Mask is serializing in single issues the graphic novels that I produced through Kickstarter. And as issue 10 is coming out, I'm writing what would amount to beyond issue 40. So I've been telling this story for years and years and years, and I do love that ongoing ability to start a character at point A and take them all the way through multiple phases of their life to point B, C, D, and just to see how they evolve. And I would love the space of a TV series for that. And I would love to work with a great team of writers on that to sort of, bring that to life. And that's a goal of mine too. But I can't say that, you know, I always want to write novels. I've written work for hire novels for Marvel, but I would love to have, you know, my own creation done in prose as well. So both of those are definitely sort of like more like one day ideas, because right now I really am in the mode of Destiny New York and our spin-offs and pushing that universe and doing Kickstarters while also maintaining my direct market presence.
So did you maintain your quick script writing from the early days of Zenescope, or have you kind of like, mellowed out to a more human level, not superhuman level of writing?
I've mellowed out, but it's the truth is it's because other things have they've been brought under the umbrella of what it is that I do. I mean, back then, what I would do is my job was to write scripts and bring those scripts to life with artists. Sometimes I would work with other writers and I would have to study their scripts, but that was a lot less frequent than it was to do it myself. But now with Kickstarter stuff and running a business, so much of it honestly is shipping. It's looking ahead. For the past 2 months, I've been trying to book covers and artists on projects for the next 3 years, so I could really just have that done and settle in. And yeah, that kind of stuff. The business side of things definitely is what has slowed me down. And as I work with different artists, I realize that some scripts will take more. You'll the Grim Universe with Zenescope, so many characters they have their set outfits. So it would be, that would facilitate my writing process, because if I'm writing Robin Hood, what Robin's going to wear. She has her outfit, and when she's just chilling, she is normally in a green hoodie. So it represents the costume in a casual way. With Destiny New York, there are artists who I'm working with who have to sort of maintain the fashion sense of a character who's been drawn by multiple artists over the past 6 years. So that's a lot more goes into scripting, because I often have to sort of work as a fashion director for a cast of 15 plus characters, and that really, really does slow me down. To just maintain the vibe is definitely an undertaking. So in that sense, I am slower for sure.
Yeah, a lot more words are needed when you have people you haven't worked with over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, that's why too it is nice that the work for hire side, I do return to Zenescope, with Van Helsing stuff and the Tales of Terror annual. Those characters too, they have that set design, so I can really just dive in and trust the artist there and trust Dave and Dave to really bring it to life visually. Whereas with the stuff that I publish myself and the creator-owned pitches that I'm doing too, that is a lot more, there are no base designs. That's more on me to help shepherd that.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour, sadly, because I know I would like to take you even longer. Where is the right place for people to follow you on social media to find out what you're up to at all times?
All right. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are all Pat Shand. My newsletter is also tinyletter.com/Pat Shand. So it's all just my name. On TikTok soon, I can tease this. Zenescope is doing a trading card Kickstarter. Ooh. And I was talking to Ralph and Amber recently about opening those on TikTok and showing those off. Because I on TikTok, my content is mostly me opening up Pokemon cards. So yeah, if you want to peek at that, definitely TikTok, Pat Shand there. And for my work, all the platforms, I do talk about my comics on TikTok, but just not as much as I should, because I'm Pokemon minded.
Perfect. I can't be mad at that because we're a Poke gym here. So
oh, nice, sweet.
Thank you so much for being with us, Pat. And for everybody that's been watching, just another reminder: head over to your local comic shop and let them know to add those titles to your polls so you do not miss them. Yes. And we'll see you guys next time for Talkin' Shop.